Thank you. Let's get rolling. Okay, good evening. If you want to adjust your mic so people will be able to hear you. Welcome, everyone. This is the Hyannis Main Street Waterfront Historic District Commission on September 6, 2023, 6:30 p.m. To all persons deemed interested or affected by the Town of Barnstable's Hyannis Main Street Waterfront Historic District Commission ordinance under Chapter 112, Article 3 of the Code of the Town of Barnstable, you are hereby notified that a hearing is being held at Town Hall, 367 Main Street, Hyannis, Mass. Selectmen's Conference Room, 2nd floor, 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, September 6, 2023. Please come in. We'll get you a chair. This meeting of September 6, 2023 is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel in accordance with NGL. The chair must inquire whether anyone is recording this meeting, and if so, to please make their presence known. I'll take it that no one is recording, and everyone could make sure that they have switched their cell phones off or on vibrate or whatever it is they do. I am now going to call the meeting to order and take a roll call. Commissioner Crowley did call me. He's stuck at South Station. He extends his apologies. 2 hours ago, he said there's no way I'm going to make it in time. And Commissioner Hinckley Needham also sent a message. Commissioner Matt Clark.
Here.
Commissioner Laura Cronin.
Here.
Commissioner Tom Doherty.
Here.
Commissioner Jack Kay.
Here.
And I, Commissioner Cheryl Powell, is also here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheryl? Cheryl.
Oh, why are you not on here? I didn't see one. Oh, Commissioner Kevin Matthews, I'm sorry.
I'm here.
I started on the
the
wrong
silent
line.
partner at the end.
I was like, is there something?
I did. Kevin, profuse apologies. I started at the wrong line. You have a lot longer line all to yourself there, you see. I also want to welcome one of our town council liaisons, Town Councilor Nicholas Atzlis. Thank you very much for attending tonight. Your presence is always valued. Okay, so that's welcome. Advisors' comments. Trainings, again, if you have not done, has anyone not done their conflict of interest? Anyone? Other commissioners. If you haven't, please try to get that done. Nothing on awards tonight. We do have correspondence, but because the correspondence pertains to specific applications, if nobody objects, I'm going to deal with that correspondence with the relevant applications rather than reading them all out to begin with. We can skip over the purpose and procedure. We go over that quite often, and we have a large crowd tonight. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Your presence is very welcome, and thank you very much to the people who helped with to bring extra chairs in. Okay, so discussion is our first one. And this is with regard to the Cordial Eye and Hyannis Public Library, 401 Main Street, Hyannis, map 326, parcel 013, with regard to a community art wall. And this is an extension request. And I am going to read the extension request, right? So if the commission fails to make a determination through issuance of a certificate of appropriateness or a disapproval within the time period specified in subsection E, 45 days, or within such further time as the applicant may allow in writing, the commission shall thereupon issue a certificate of hardship due to failure to act. The applicant hereby agrees that the time for the commission to make a determination on the application is extended until June 1st, 2024. In executing this agreement, the applicant hereto specifically waives any claim for a grant of a certificate of appropriateness, certificate of hardship, or certificate of non-applicability due to the failure to act based upon the limits applicable prior to the execution of this agreement. This is signed by Mary George, the petitioner agent. Okay, so we have other letters to be read in. Hi, welcome. Do we have an extra chair? Oh, we do. Excellent. Okay. I'll read the other letters afterwards. Who is speaking on behalf of this, please? Whoever would like to come up first. You will too. If you could sign in, please. And state your name.
My name is Mary George, and I am the co-executive director of the Cordial Eye. Thank you. Nice to see all of you again.
Want to tell us about it?
Yeah, so since we saw you all last, we officially were able to erect the Hyannis Community Art Wall, which is on the side of the Hyannis Public Library, which I'm sure most of you have seen going up and down Main Street. And during that time, we have had two professional artists come create a commissioned piece of work. So Joey Mars, who is a local but internationally renowned artist, as well as Felipe Ortiz, who is a Greater Boston-based artist who also works as a muralist nationally and internationally, is currently also exhibiting at the Cape Cod Museum of Art. So that's been really cool. We've also hosted, I believe, 4 different community paint nights in conjunction with the Hyannis Bids First Friday events, as well as the one of the Open Streets events earlier in the season. And at each one of those occasions, we welcomed upwards of 200 community members who came to participate and make their mark on the wall. And in between those structured community events, we've had a steady stream of artists contributing on a daily basis who utilize the sign-in, sign-out process with the Hyannis Public Library to do so. It has been a really positive experience, I think, by all measurements. We have been able to adhere completely to the guidelines that were set forth at our last meeting, and a lot of the concerns that were raised, none of those things have happened. So it's been a really positive experience. We've also had a lot of just really moving moments of like intergenerational art creation, like parents, grandparents, children creating at the wall together. We've been able to welcome both tourists and locals alike. One of our kind of like special things that happened this summer at our community paint nights were having tourists say things like, "Oh, I wish they had one of these in my town." So it was special to hear that this impacted visitors as well as the local artists that we already knew that this was important to. And I know there is one particular teenage artist who does a form of alternative schooling and saw that the art wall was there, is interested in street art, and so has become a regular user of that wall. And because he is an alternative student, has now been using the Hyannis Public Library as his place of study on a regular basis as well. So we're seeing that there's some of that cross-pollination that we were hoping would happen between the library's audiences and the Cordial Eyes audiences. When Felipe Ortiz, our most recent commission artist, was creating his work on the wall, we let the community know there's going to be an artist working this weekend. You're welcome to come by. And there was 2 teenagers that ended up spending about 30 hours over the weekend just next to this artist, spray painting, like wanting to hear about his process. And then a few weeks later, this artist is exhibiting at, one of our most credible local institutions, the Cape Cod Museum of Art. And, we were kind of talking in our office about, like, what other opportunity would there be for a random high schooler to interact with an artist of this caliber kind of in the wild while he's creating his work. So many of the things that we had hoped that this wall would be have happened. We are really optimistic for continued growth in programming around that wall, as well as collaboration with other organizations in the community here. That could be if we're able to extend the tenure of this project. And we are really thankful that the concerns that we had were able to be, they were not things that came to pass, and we think the processes that we put in place, particularly in regard to our partnership with the library and their surveillance and facilities managers that keep a daily eye on the wall, have really been instrumental to making this a safe, positive community building place.
Very well presented. So I'm going to ask the commissioners if they have any questions on what Ms. George has stated. I'll then go to open it up to staff and then public comment. Go to staff now.
Yeah, just real quick, if I may, just for clarification's sake, there was a decision rendered about a year ago. That decision states that it expires unless an extension is granted. So tonight, the applicant is here for that extension request. So that's for your consideration.
You're quite right. So we granted it and we wanted to see how it went, so we said that we would meet again with you the week after Labor Day.
Yes, I believe that sort of conditional approval was for the period between Memorial Day and Labor Day. And our conversation at the time was kind of, let's see how it goes. And if it goes well, we can consider extending the pilot of this project to a full year. So this would bring us to like end of May, June of 2024.
And we had brought you back at one time in the interim with regard to some concerns that were expressed, and I'm sorry, some concerns that should have leaned forward a little bit more, some concerns, and I think you addressed those admirably, from what I can tell anyway. So,
I have one. Oh, go ahead, please.
Just a question on the application itself. I don't understand what it reads. I read the words, but I don't understand what it is we're being asked of and what the discussion is.
What we're doing is we didn't want to just grant a certificate of appropriateness, and I apologize because you weren't a commissioner at the time. So we didn't want to grant a certificate of appropriateness right away. We wanted to see, keep
Yeah, I was
tabs
there for
on it
that. Yeah.
to make sure that it was regulated, and so we put let's come back and revisit this. And I have a question for staff on this. Laura was not part of that original discussion.
Yes, I was. I was here.
Oh, you were here?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay, that's what I thought you were saying. Okay. Okay, so we're
It's
good.
just- It's the words that this is before us.
Okay.
It just got a lot of language in there that I'm just trying to see what we're protected with and what we're agreeing to, other than extension of, if it's extended, if it's voted not to. What happens?
There's several options. I think correct me if I'm wrong, but the options would be extend it, or to grant a certificate of appropriateness. It's for us to determine what it is we want to grant and how we want to grant that, by what's said. Any clarification?
Yeah, I would say, while it's nice that they provided some context, the bottom line is we don't have an application for an extension of a condition in a decision. So what's before you tonight is they have a decision in front of you that has already been granted through Labor Day, and it was required of them to come back to this commission to determine whether this commission will grant a certificate of appropriateness, which means it can stay up for as long as they wish. You could grant them a certain time period.
Like we did before. Yeah.
And I believe the time period being requested at this time is through end of May, early June is what I heard.
2024.
Or you could simply say, we granted at that time, but we're no longer granting.
Okay,
So those
thank
are
you.
really your three options.
Okay.
I read it out earlier. They were asking till June 1st, 2024.
Yes, now I understand. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah.
JP Tom.
Microphone.
That form is an extension form, so it's really irrelevant for this situation. That's an extension of a continuation request form. So typically we get those signed when you guys have a period of time where you have to render a decision, and say that a few weeks ago when you didn't have a quorum, we had to get all the applicants sign that form to say that, hey, we're not going to hit our deadline, but we mutually agreed to extend to a certain date. So this is really, that form is irrelevant for our conversation tonight.
But it is asking for an extension to June 1st, 2024.
So that is for your consideration. That's what the applicant wants based on the decision that they have already to date.
Okay. Any other commissioners?
Yeah,
strong
I
presentation?
have a question
Commissioner
for
Matthews.
Ms. George. I read the 88 pages of Google Forms, and I got to tell you, every single one was 5, we want to keep it, and was how great it is, which I'm not doubting is the case. Was there any, or has there been any negative feedback at all from any, I mean, even if it's just like, I don't like this stuff or whatever. I mean, is it all that positive?
The only piece of slightly negative feedback that we have received was several patrons of the library requesting that we provide some more context on the history and importance of graffiti art near the wall. But that's really the only piece of constructive criticism we've received during this time. And we've been out there, so we're available for that.
Doherty, I think you have something to say.
I also read the 88 pages too, and they were really, and it was all positive, as Kevin said. there were only 6 people from Hyannis. You know, the rest were from Orleans to Sandwich to North Canaan, which I didn't even know where that is. You know, so there weren't a lot of people from Hyannis that were interested in this. Do these other towns have art walls on the libraries and on Cape, or is it just Hyannis?
Ours is we're the first legal art wall on Cape Cod here in Hyannis. And so I guess what I would hope that sort of scope of response illustrates is the way in which this wall is making Hyannis a destination and a draw for people all over the Cape and beyond, that it's being used by artists. You know, we've had artists come down from P-Town for the day that heard there was a wall here and wanted to work on it. So, you know, I think we've spent a lot of time with community members that do live within here, you know, within the village of Hyannis, who have used the wall and have had positive things to say about it. But yeah, I mean, I felt it very affirming that such a wide scope of our larger Cape Cod community feels that this public art intervention is really resonating with their values.
But we've only had 2 artists, that you said. That 2 artists that actually were working on the wall.
So we had 2 professionally commissioned artists. So the wall consists of 4 panels. And when you're looking at it, the leftmost panel is reserved for a professionally commissioned piece of art, which we turn over on a quarterly basis. So we've only had the wall open for 1 quarter. So there's only been two artists participate during that time, but the other 3 panels of the wall are open to any community member that would like to work on it. So over the course of the summer, I would conservatively estimate between 1,000 and 1,200 artists, community artists, have participated in creating on the wall.
Section.
I'm sorry?
They just paint a little section.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we have artists come out there that are like, you know, in the mood to work big and will paint an entire panel on their day out there.
You know, my problem with not the art wall, you know, art is in the eye of the beholder, as we all know, and this is not my type of art. But mine is in the historic district, okay? And when we first had these meetings, it was back before Memorial Day when you came in, graffiti art was not brought up in the discussion. That was in the midsummer meeting that we had when you guys came in and explained what you were doing with the graffiti art. My problem still with it is, you know, the idea is, you know, great where kids can come and people can paint, is graffiti art in a historic district, okay? You know, this book, Hyannis and Hyannisport, you know, the library was responsible for a lot of this history. There's so much history, you know, in Hyannis, you know, where I would hope to have, I'd love that wall with picking history, people, you know, events that happened in Hyannis and put that up there and maybe leave a little section, you know, for kids or artists to come in and do whatever. But, you know, I watched it all year, and, you know, I came, you know, at least once or twice a week to see it. And again, it's not my type of art, but my thing is it's belonging in a historic district, okay, and I'm still struggling with that.
Yeah, I would respond to that there's room for it all, right? You know, there's no limit to the amount of public art projects that we would love to administrate here in the district. And we think that there's certainly room for more, you know, conventional forms of art that resonate with some more conventional ideas of what historic Hyannis is. And there's also room for this. And graffiti, in fact, is one of the most historic art forms. You know, we can trace it all the way back to like the BCE era. So in every anthropological era where there's people, graffiti art has been part of that and is...
Graffiti art really officially started in 1967 in Philadelphia. If you really want to look at when graffiti art started.
Well,
you can call writing on the walls, you know, communication also. But the term graffiti was in 1967 in Philadelphia.
I mean, we, with all due respect, we did quite a bit of deep research on the history of this type of marking that we now know as graffiti, right? And terminology changes over the eras, but markings that are affixed to a publicly facing surface, the artistic importance, the anthropological importance, the historic importance of that extends far, far, far back in our human history, and in fact was part of what Hyannisites of previous centuries were doing. It's not a form of art that has been amplified in a particular way by this community before now, but I think it's certainly something that is part of our objective history as a community. And I think, if you have looked closely at the wall, we see that there's a lot of different, even within this larger medium of graffiti, there's a lot of different ways that people are contributing to this wall. There are folks using aerosol paints. There are folks coming with more like acrylic paints, using paintbrushes. We've seen folks there with markers and paint pens. And so there's a variety of different ways in which people are contributing to this collective canvas.
And I think you noted quite correctly that, it's all in the eyes of the beholder. Just to clarify, when it first came to us, it wasn't so much referred to as graffiti as it was, if I remember correctly, referred to as aerosol art.
Correct. That is the terminology we use in the application.
And there was a minor complaint, and you did come back in before us, and you did address that. So I'm just pleased that happened. Can I ask real quick for a show of hands, how many people here are for the community art wall attending tonight? Thank you very much. Commissioner Clark, did I see your hand up? I thought you were...
People here are for the art wall. I assume that they're all here for the art wall.
Yes.
Well, no, we have I wasn't sure.
But what are they associated with the Cordial Eye? How many people are associated with Cordial Eye?
Or the library, or the
Cordial
library.
Eye.
Cordial Eye, or the library.
Or the library?
Can you clarify?
Yeah, what do you mean by associated? That could mean, how long is a piece of string?
The Cordial Eye has 2 staff members, myself and my colleague Anastasia, and I believe there are a couple of board and staff members from the Hyannis Public Library present here tonight. But the rest of the folks you see in the room are community members, artists who've worked on the wall, who, I mean, you could say they're associated in that they participate with our art interventions in the community, but they're not employees of the Cordial Eye.
Commissioner Cronin.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking where we went from the beginning and looking at this from the historic district perspective and giving it an opportunity to explore. And I'm of the same mind, and not all of the actions are positive. I don't know how wide that survey went out, but it is not all positive. I've heard other people say, well, how long is that going to be there? It doesn't really belong there. Or I get that it's a good activity, but maybe just bring it out for some of the community events that you have, where then it just didn't seem like it belonged in the downtown area. And I think, again, with the historic district setting a precedent of graffiti art, where it's now acceptable to have that anywhere in the historic district. And I just want to be sure that we're not against that. I said that from the beginning, that we actually embraced and listened to the passion that the artists came before us and what they really wanted to be able to do. And we, applaud that, and we love to be able to do that. We offered other alternatives to have it inside a building and facility within the library, and where it isn't out on the public wall, or in another location in the town of Barnstable. But in the Hyannis Historic District, I think where we were concerned with was it being set as a precedent. Art is to their own, and we do have commissioned murals before. So that was done, but that was under our not mine, but under the historic purview and determination of the work and what was approved and what was placed out there in historic materials and or the design itself. So anytime someone has a piece of art that they want to put within the historic district, it's always come before us. And we've looked at it from an appropriate standpoint and whether or not it fits within a historic environment for the town and for the village of Hyannis. So I don't see this as being any different. I think that yes, there has been a lot of positive, judging by the people that did respond, but I think also from an historic perspective to protect that this village. There's a lot of challenges it has on its own, and we just want to make sure that we kind of stay within the historic of the village. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other commissioners before I read the correspondence we received from this? Commissioner Matthews?
Yeah, I guess my thought process here is I do understand what Laura and Tom are both saying. I get the historical perspective that they're bringing in with the Waterfront District and what we do here. However, I do think that I'm trying to look at art more broadly. As we've talked about, it's in the eye of the beholder. I've seen artists take paintbrushes and throw it at a canvas and look at it. There it is. And I'm like, I don't get that. So it's not what the art is, it's the fact that we're allowing or we're granting this wall to allowing it to stay up so people can't express their art. And as long as it's not obscene and there's no obscene pictures or drawings or words, I think it's a positive thing. I think that's my personal opinion. We have a lot of different art galleries and a lot of different art that we display in the Waterfront Historic District. This is just another form of it. So that's my thought process.
Did you read the correspondence? Yep. So we have two letters aside from the request for the extension to June 1st, 2024. The first is from Antonia Stevens. Is Antonia here tonight by any chance?
She has COVID.
Oh, actually, she does. That's right. She did. It's in her letter. Cannot be in tonight's Historic Commission meeting because I was getting confused with the other. Still positive for COVID, but at least one library staff member and board member will be there to represent the library. Regard to the community art wall, I am forwarding this note from Wendy Norcross. P.S. for the record, August 1st, Friday. The hip-hop DJ helping community. It's on a hip-hop thing. The one from Wendy Northcross. I have been at the museum almost daily during the time that the community art wall has been installed. I have been impressed with the level of participation by young artists. I have never seen any problems with what has been put on the walls, and I believe the project proponents have lived up to their standards of checking on the wall and updating any painting they deemed inappropriate. I myself never saw anything inappropriate. I have witnessed people taking selfies in front of the wall and believe that it has been an interesting addition to experiencing the walk through the parking lot to the library or Main Street. Wendy Northcross, CCE Executive Director, JFK Hyannis Museum Foundation. And those are the correspondences. If there's any other clarification from the commissioners or not, I'm going to open it up to public comment, and then we'll go back to, we'll ask staff, and then we'll go to discussion. Okay? So I'm going to open it up to public comment. Yes, please.
Do I come up and sign in, or?
Yes, please. Okay. Like, maybe I can get you to scoot over one and let him sit there. You sign in and state your name, please.
Sure. My name is Lawrence Brown. I've been a teacher for 42 years, 34 of them here on Cape, and I'm a trustee for the Hyannis Public Library. And give me a second where I
That's
put my
right.
name
Take your
in.
time.
Thank you, by the way, for allowing us to be with you and talk to you for a minute. First of all, I'd like to reassure you that there are security cameras all around the Hyannis Public Library, which are monitored. So we have an opportunity to see if anything unusual or untoward is going on. There's security lighting there all night, and we have the ability to review the tapes daily if we need to. We also have a custodian who is there before the place opens, and if there's anything inappropriate on the walls, we can take some steps if we have to cover them before the public shows up. Interestingly, on the issue of graffiti, whether this is a public art wall or a graffiti art wall, my monthly edition of the Smithsonian Magazine arrived yesterday, and in it there's an article about the historicity of graffiti art. And graffiti originally, and I had not known this, means, it's Italian for scratching. It's what people used to do on walls that we find in Pompeii and all kinds of other places. So for what it's worth, there is a historical component to the type of art that it is. But I think we have this idea of graffiti being something that someone surreptitiously does in the middle of the night with a can of spray paint. This stuff is the collaborative that spoke to us just now serve as intermediaries. People don't just walk up and do stuff on the wall, as far as I know, especially the major projects are done through you. So there is some oversight from other people and from the library itself before stuff goes up. It's really important to understand that a modern library functions as sort of human connective tissue to all kinds of literary, artistic, civic-minded organizations and individuals in a community. It's not just a repository of books anymore. The public outreach is not an additional idea, it's essential to what modern libraries do. And something is happening that is itself historic in this sense, at least for the Cape. We're the first art wall here. And the way we're going about it, I think, can provide a model for other communities that want to do the same thing and have the same concerns that some of you have raised about what's on the wall, is there any oversight, and all the rest. We're doing something really neat here. I've also taught long enough and worked with young artists and young performing artists to know that having an audience, having a public, is essential to the artistic process. And it's really important, especially coming out of COVID, which had some real heavy impact on our kids, on Cape and nationally. School teachers will tell you that they're still recovering. The kids are recovering, the schools are recovering from what COVID did. And this is a chance for young people to get back in the game. They were out of the game for 2 years. And this is a chance to get back in that we're providing at the library. And I think it's really important. And so I'm really grateful that you guys allowed us to do this in the first place. And I'm really hopeful that you'll allow us to continue doing it. I think it's a value. I think it's a real value. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
I'm Carol Ann DeLuca. I work at the Hyannis Library. I've been there for 3 decades now. I grew up in Hyannis, and I love Hyannis. I remember when Hyannis wasn't so bright and cheerful. And for me, as a worker, to go into a building that is bright and it has Garfield on it, and it might have Snoopy, and somebody wipes off Snoopy and puts something else of their own on it, it's different every day. And that's why I love working at the Hyannis Library, because it's different every day. And to have that be manifested on this wall just affirms to me that we have a vibrant community in Hyannis that loves its history, that loves its new residents, that loves the artwork that comes through here, and it loves the library. And we are a little teeny-weeny city here, and I don't think we will never lose the historic feeling of Hyannis. It's too deep. And to be able to be free enough to open the arms of the community to something different is going to make us stronger. And I really appreciate having been able to see that wall every day since it started. And there's some beautiful, beautiful attempts, some beautiful, beautiful successes. And to have a child come in with her parent and say, we came here from off Cape, and we're so excited that we can put our mark on Hyannis. People come from all over the world to Hyannis because of its history. That's never going to change, and we support that. So again, I thank everyone for the opportunity that we've had, and I pray that we can continue this opportunity and see it grow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, may I ask a question of the library staff?
Yes.
Thank you. Have you noticed an increase in people attending the library as a result of the wall? Has it increased? Have you seen any increase there as far as foot traffic is concerned?
The wall, our multilingual teachers and staff, our dedicated trustees, our partnerships within the community, not just with Cordial Eye, but with lots of organizations in the community. Yes, people are coming to the library.
Okay.
Our numbers are going up, our circulation is going up, and people are excited.
So my follow-up comment to that would be, for a library that has historically struggled in comparison to the other libraries in our town, I think anything that's positive that can bring more traffic and add to the viability and long-term survival of the Hyannis Library, I think is very important. That's just my humble opinion, because I did grow up in that library. I grew up about a half mile from it. I have a lot of great memories there. I typically don't speak at these meetings because I don't think it's my place as a liaison, but that's another conversation for another day with legal. But given that this is the Hyannis Public Library and this is where I was born and raised, I think it's a positive. In that book right there that you held up, 100 years from now, that art wall is probably going to be in it. It's part of our history.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question? How many people in this room live in Hyannis?
Well, Hyannis, or I'm in Centerville, they're Barnstable, yeah. Everybody's from Barnstable, right? Because you have to remember 7 villages and all that. Okay, so you did that. You were very patient. Thank you. And thank you, Nick, for your comments.
Hello, everybody. I'm Christian Garnett. I'm an artist here on Cape Cod. Up until recently, I was a journalist for Cape Media News, and the day that they covered the opening of the art wall, I was the journalist who was covering it that day. And there's a couple things I want to say, but mostly I've spent hours listening to you guys talk. I had to put together videos of the hearings about this, and there's a few things I want to say. We already covered how the idea of graffiti as a part of history is not necessarily like this dark idea of midnight graffiti. We already talked about that. But we've also talked about how some people think it should be inside, but with it being, markers and paints, the smell would just make it not possible. Unless you're only using acrylic paint, which is not the purpose of the art wall. It's mixed media, so it wouldn't work inside. And this was touched on a little bit, but I mean, this is a chance to make history in the historical district. We already have, like I said, Cape Media News covered this, made a video about it. It could just keep going. There could continue to be cool pictures of the art wall in these states of flux, as it constantly is. And as somebody who has contributed to it and visits it every time I'm on Main Street, I think it should stick around, and I'm a proponent of it.
Give Mr. Garner a chance to sign in. Who would like to be next? Okay.
Should have done that at the beginning. Sorry about that.
Doesn't matter which one. Please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Craig Florence. I'm an artist in the community as well. I actually was here at the last meeting, and at that time, I spoke about how I felt as a kid that grew up here, that having opportunities to create art, especially art that's out of the box, are a little different than kind of the normal around here. That's been hard to come by, and I wish that I had it as a kid or had those opportunities, and I saw this as that opportunity. So when when this started taking place, I was fortunate enough to help out with some of these open street events. And so I got to spend time face to face with all of the different types of people that came and used the wall, and to get their reactions. And I remember, a part of that earlier discussion was about, well, like, how will this look to visitors? Because people come to Hyannis, they have a certain idea. I mean, I can tell you that I spoke to, again, probably hundreds of people from all over the country, from all over the world, that were like enthralled and thrilled and happy, and we had young and old, and everybody was excited to do this because this is a rare opportunity. It's a really unique experience, and I think it can be formidable for some people. My son, he's 6, and he fell absolutely in love with it. And now I erected my own wall in the backyard so that he can continue to do it because he loves it so much. He always wants to come down. And the other thing is, I think Mary might have touched on it, but there were a few kids that came along throughout the course of those different events that, like I just saw myself as a younger kid, and they again expressed that same feeling that I had, that sometimes it's tough on the Cape if you do things a little bit differently, especially the arts is not really it's not here for us all the time. So I saw those people come back and get to really enjoy that, and that meant a lot to me personally. There was another experience early on that also stuck with me. That I have a workspace up the street a little bit, and that is overlooking some of these rooftops. And we had an incident where there was racist graffiti that was scrawled across the several different rooftop buildings. And Anastasia, Tish, there was a quick response to get this cleaned up and figure out what was going on. During that process, a pair of very young gentlemen came up to the roof. They had a backpack full of spray paint, and we thought, or I thought, hey, like these are our guys, So I went to go talk to these kids, and it was an interesting experience. Again, some of the sentiments that I just shared, those kids felt as well, and obviously they're having some other kind of issues. But part of what I explained to them is, we live in a vibrant community. We live in a diverse community. Some of the business owners that are working underneath that, where they're spraying this stuff, and some of the artists that can see that, like, they're going to be affected by this. And I understand that, these kids are looking for some kind of outlet or whatever. And, the thing is, like, there are community members that are working hard and coming to meetings like this to present to you folks and you folks yourselves who are willing to give a chance to something like this. And I explained that the community is behind them so that they can make better decisions and have a place to go. And I was able to direct them over to the library, and so that they could use the wall, which they did and have, and it has been very pleasant as far as I know. I've never seen any kind of vulgarity or profanity or anything like that. Actually, some of the pieces that have showed up have been like absolutely beautiful, and you get people just talking about, have you seen the what was that, Heron was up there for a while, that was like spectacular. I don't want to ramble on. I do really appreciate, once again, you all listening, and I really hope that you will consider extending this, because I think it's so fantastic. Yeah, sorry, I should have done that at the beginning too.
Thank you, Mr. Florence. That's all right. Just give him a chance to sign in. Thank you.
I'll start that first. My name is Anastasia Pacella, and I am co-executive director of the Core July with Mary. And I just want to add on briefly to Craig's story. So we were able to, he was able to talk with those young boys, redirect them. Some other artists that we know happened to be at the wall at that time. They saw those boys come over. They used the wall appropriately as it was intended. And I don't believe we've seen them back up on the rooftop spray painting the rooftop. So having that wall available we were able to mitigate and get these young boys connected to something positive in the community. And that was really, I'm not the public speaker of the bunch, so I really do appreciate you taking the time to listen and consider everything we have to say tonight.
Did you identify that they were the ones on those rooftops? Or?
So the gentleman, I would say yes. They didn't explicitly confess, but one through gestures like this. These kids were probably, I would assume, maybe like 11, maybe 12, somewhere in that age range, like young middle school kids.
Yeah.
And that experience stuck with me for in a lot of different ways, but having a positive, outcome and a place for them to go, and a place for them to feel like, the community has everybody's back, and they don't need to express themselves in that negative way to get the attention, because there is positive attention, and they just needed to hear about it from somebody.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to come up and speak?
Actually, there is one more thing I wanted to say, and I forgot. Do I need to sign it again?
No.
Okay.
But thank you for asking.
Hello again, everybody. There's one thing I wanted to say that I think is important, so I'm coming back up. Christian Garnett again. So that area on the side of the library, before this art wall, was just a brick wall. It was not being used. It was basically just a walkway. So now it is a chance to make history in Hyannis, like I said before, but it is also another thing to do in Hyannis that isn't replacing an old thing. It's not taking up space of anything. It is just this walkway that was nothing, and now it's 3 places to paint. Don't paint on the 4th one, that's not allowed. And yeah, so it is the historic district, but that doesn't mean it needs to be like the stagnant district. You can have new things make history, and new stories to tell, and new things for people to do regardless of their wealth. All you need is art supplies. You don't need to really spend money. If you can make it to Hyannis, you can do the art wall. And I think that is one of the best things about it. That's something I wanted to say before, and I just forgot to. So
right.
Thank you again.
Thank you. Anyone else?
If I could add one tiny thing? And I've already signed in.
You have.
I wanted to remind you of the letter from Wendy Norcross, because here's someone who is historic, the Kennedy Museum. She's the director. She loves the wall. She's glad it's there. If from her point of view, running a museum next door, she wished that it weren't there, that might be different. But I think that's an important letter of support that we received, and I wanted to make sure that it kind of sunk in for everybody, the significance of what that means to get an endorsement from someone like her. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Let me say a word. Sure. Excuse me. My name is Milvia Nogueira. I work at Hyannis Public Library, and I am one of the multilingual persons that Carolyn talked about. I have been working there for 1 year now, and one of the most important things that we at the library knows is about the historical value that the Hyannis society has, and all the value that Hyannis itself has for my foreign community, American community. I help people that doesn't speak English in the community to find help. It doesn't matter if they are from Brazil, from Russia, from Poland, Haiti. We have patrons from everywhere here. And the library, after the art wall, we increased our collection of art books, also movies about the beginning of the graffiti in the world, movies about Jean Basquiat. And we also have magazines available. We have a specific, completely section only about the historical, the history of Hyannis itself, and how important it is for us to have this wall. I came from a country where our artists, we call that, I'm sorry the cordial why, but in Brazil we call that street art. And it became street art because there is no art walls. Everywhere you go, you see those somehow ugly walls painted by street arts. And here I'm so happy when I arrive every single day and I can see that mural full of art. And sometimes I have little kids, and they feel so important when they could put a badge written artist, and that's the first picture that they take. I'm an artist today, painting the wall. And it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter where you're from. Hyannis is such a special place where you can feel loved, you can feel welcome everywhere you go. And it's a pleasure to have that wall at the library at the moment while I'm working. Although somehow I understand your concerns, but we are in 2023. And I'm thankful for the cordial why to have that wall at the library. I'm thankful for the city to embrace this project and to allow us to do our work and to help people every single day. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, please.
Hi, my name's Elton Rose Kennedy, and I live here in Hyannis. And I just wanted to show up and show my support for this wall. I am also an artist here that has been dug out from the basement that I live in by the cordial eye. And I have been daydreaming about doing a piece on this wall for a while. And the main thing I want to say is how many other people are out there that have known about this project now or may discover it in the future and are now imagining themselves as a street artist or doing a mural, doing something that everyone walking down the street is going to see. So I think that this is going to be a huge loss if we don't continue this project. I would really, really, really like to be a part of it, and it's been a joy to walk by it when I go to my studio and when they have events. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just add just two really brief comments. We've heard a lot of feedback in the last few minutes about the impact on youth that this wall has had. And one of the original elements of the project plan for this wall was partnership with our local school districts. And so namely, Sturgis East and West had assigned on to have this wall be incorporated into their International Baccalaureate art program at the school. And that particular element of this program has not been able to be realized yet because it's been over the summer. And so there's, I think, a really huge opportunity to create connective thread between not just Sturgis, but many local school students, school art students, between both the library and Hyannis, and just another element of programming that we have not been able to really manifest yet because of the short timeline has been collaborative exhibitions with the JFK Museum. And so that's something that I think would be really interesting for this community and could potentially bring very new audiences into the JFK Museum, and get some JFK Museumites really interested in what is going on at the art wall. And I would really hate to see that opportunity missed.
So I'm going to ask if you want to go back with the audience, if you wouldn't mind, because you're the. Anyone else? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave public comment open, but I'm first going to go to staff to see if staff has a comment. Nope.
No, nothing further. I think all has been said. Again, before you is either certificate of appropriateness, an extension, which the applicant is asking for through June 1, or to not extend, and therefore it would need to come down.
But it's listed as a discussion.
Correct. It's not an application. You have a decision before you with
Yeah.
a condition that states that the deadline is Labor Day.
So there's the options.
Could I ask Jim a question?
Sure.
What's the process if we were to give this a certificate of appropriateness open-ended without a date? What's the process that if things took a turn for the worse in what way, or there was starting to be, art that was offensive, or if we got, bad language, or whatever the case, that we could ask the Corps de July or the Hyannis Museum groups to come back in because we're having some concerns?
Well, so if a certificate of appropriateness was approved, the enforcement arm is the building department, the inspectional services office. But that's not to say that, someone like myself or others could play a role. I mean, we have an active partnership with the Corps de July, so we could certainly, and the library, so we could certainly have ongoing discussion with them if any concerns arose.
Okay.
But yes, a certificate of appropriateness would then therefore be a decision rendered and enforcement as a building.
I'm just trying to decide whether it's best to do it that way, open-ended, or have this happen year after year after year, that kind of thing.
I don't know if we won't do that. All right. As you know, I always leave my comments till the end. But commissioners, what? Oh, Commissioner.
A question on if they were looking to have this extension to the end of May, what happens in the wintertime? With snow and
And it would be part of the baccalaureate program for the arts.
with
and
the
that sort of
snow
thing.
and the weather and such.
They'd have to address the snow and the rain, but they've had rain in that anyway. And we can't really predict whether we're going to have a cold or a winter.
I didn't know if there was an
We'll have to adjust.
alternative for them, if they thought of that for the extension, or if there's an opportunity to look at this to come back at a later date for the same time period. We've got a lot of activity because it's summer. It started Memorial Day weekend, and now it's all through the summer, so I can imagine the activity and the visitors were really instrumental in supporting that. And also with that discussion on some of the other schools having this as part of their credentials or part of their programs, is there an opportunity to take it as a traveling show, take it to the different schools so that the kids can have their own wall in their elementary school and not have to worry about coming into Hyannis to do it, whereby then, we're doing it more for the community at large to be able to appreciate what this process is and not necessarily have it.
I
Here.
appreciate your thoughts, but I also feel that that's not really within the purview of this commission to dictate for other schools what they would do. My understanding is you wanted to make this part of the baccalaureate program over the winter. Is that correct? So, and the request
so
is
then
till June 1.
This is before us, and thank you.
So, any other commissioners' comments? Okay.
Just one thing to answer Kevin's, I think the Corps de July, when this first started, we were concerned about, graffiti, obscene things being put up on the wall. But I think the Corps de July has controlled that, well. Again, my thing was just the graffiti art. And I still don't believe it'll be in this book 100 years from now.
What was that? Microphone. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Nothing.
You have to start again now.
I'll pass on
It's a
that.
good trial run.
I'll pass on that. But, my thing was, graffiti art. And as you said, you want to project art to the community, but you're projecting one form of art to the community, not a lot of art to the community.
Some of the murals are far from being expressionist or modern art. I mean, there's all kinds of art that's showing up on the wall, including traditional. It's public art, I think, is almost more accurate than graffiti art, perhaps.
So, any more?
No.
Okay. So, like I said, when it first came before us, it was aerosol art, and when we understood the graffiti and that part of it, and there were concerns that were expressed, and that's why we brought you back in the middle of the summer. I very much appreciate, I'm sure the commission very much appreciates your coming back and listening to some of the things that have been expressed and then addressing those. So we always like it when people work with us, because it is somewhat of a new venture. As has already been said at length, is that it's all in the eye of the beholder. We had restrictions that we put on. My own personal feeling is I would want those same restrictions to remain on. And the reason we did those is, Commissioner Matthews, I think you're one that mentioned it, but you weren't here when it came before us before. I was one that expressed I didn't want it to be used for racist, that was mentioned tonight, things, and that's why we have them monitoring it. We didn't want to turn it into a billboard where people are paying for things to advertise their business or to advertise, come buy this, we're giving 50 cents off, whatever. We didn't want it to be used for political purposes. We have a political climate at the moment where people can arrange to have their vote for me. And also to bear in mind that we're trying to promote community, as has been said here. So bear in mind that whatever the stuff that's on these, the art, is, bear in mind that people are there with children, that it's appropriate. And I think you have addressed that. And I also agree that the wall is part of history. This is my personal opinion. As you know, I'm one voice and one vote. I'm not, I don't tell people what to think or what to feel. I know the first time you came before us, I actually suggested doing a catalog as part of a history of this impact on the community and the changes. Christian, you did videos of us and an article on it. I hope it was favorable.
I thought it was good.
Good. All right. Art has, as I've said to other people, my daughter is a professional artist. And so we dealt with art within the family, and we went all over the world in it. And there's been changes. It was mentioned the Greeks and Romans and all this stuff, and the scratching and et cetera. Then you have it went up like Sistine Chapel and Rembrandt. Then, of course, the Impressionists were somewhat iffy in their time. People were, is this really art? It doesn't look like Rembrandt. It doesn't look like the Mona Lisa, but it's Monet, Van Gogh. Again, I'm picking on you, Commissioner Matthew. I think you were talking about throwing, like a Warhol.
Yeah.
I personally like Dali, but so art is art. But I do feel, because this is a historic area, it has to be monitored to make sure that it doesn't go to non-historic, damaging the town. Somebody cannot take families because we want that area to be family-friendly, right? And also to promote the historical, which is part of what it is. But that's my own. So, did I hear somebody? It is historical, what you are doing, protecting the historical. I think if the my personal opinion is if those restrictions were maintained. So I'm going to I haven't closed public comment yet. Do the commissioners have any other comments they wish to make?
I didn't know about those restrictions, but those sound fair. Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and I could just respond to that. We have 2 signs up by the wall, both in English and in Portuguese, outlining all of the restrictions that we mutually agreed upon at our last meeting. And those are permanently affixed at the space, as well as the daily monitoring of the space that occurs.
And as Mary and I are educators and parents of young families, we share that same interest in maintaining a family-friendly environment. So we have that same concern in common.
I think I can speak for the library. No one is asking you to lower those restrictions, ever. I think that's what makes it an art wall
Yeah.
and civil.
Thank you.
So thank you for having me there in the first place.
So, is there any other, as I said, I haven't closed public comment, but I'm now going to make a suggestion to the commission if there's no other comments, right? And no others from staff?
No further, no.
My personal suggestion, and it's up to the commission, as I said, on one voice, one vote, is that we maintain the restrictions, and then it's part of the program for the next school year. And they haven't actually had a school year to deal with this. They've had just the summer to see how that baccalaureate program goes. But to have them, I'm personally okay with the extension to next June. That allows us to keep tabs on it. Again, that if there's complaints of a serious nature, we start seeing things that are inappropriate, that come back and let's voice them and see what we can do about them, because it is a new venture and we are tasked with trying to preserve the historical character. How do commissioners feel about that suggestion?
That's fine with me.
I would agree with that, as long as the guidelines state it.
I applaud that.
Okay, so in that case, even though it's down as discussion, I'm happy to make a motion that we make that. Do you want me to make the motion, or does somebody else want to make the motion?
I can do it. I move that the commission find that this application is compatible.
It's not an application. It's not an application.
May I offer some language?
Do you want me to do it and you correct me?
go for it.
Okay.
Good.
Is that all right with you, Commissioner Matthews?
No, please go ahead.
Okay. So
I was about to do something wrong, so please.
you're about to do something right, but in the wrong way.
Exactly right.
Okay. So, with regard to the Cordial Eye in Hyannis Public Library at 401 Main Street, Hyannis, map 326, parcel 013 for the community art wall, the extension request that is dated August 18th, 2023 by Mary George, who is the part of the Hyannis Community Art Wall extension team for Cordial Eye, if I got that right. The request, I make a motion that we approve the extension with the relevant restrictions that we have imposed in the past, and also with the condition that if we receive notable complaints, that we can bring them back in and say, can you look at this and what's going on, and can we address that? To June 1st, 2024.
I'll second that.
Jim, anything you want to add on to that that I missed?
No, that looks good to me. Thank you.
So, Commissioner Kay.
Aye.
Commissioner Doherty.
Aye.
Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Matthews.
Aye.
Commissioner Cronin.
Aye.
I also say aye. Congratulations.
Thank you all very, very much.
You're welcome.
We hope we see you out there. Part of our community meeting.
Well, my daughter's actually coming to visit before Christmas, and she's, as I said, she's an artist. I've mentioned this to her.
I'm hoping that Barnstable High School might get interested in doing much the same thing that Sturgis is doing. I've got some good contacts with Barnstable.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Because it's a real chance for an art student to make a public statement. Contribution. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. So the
Thank you.
commission has a pretty long meeting, so if you're going to have conversations, please do it in the hallway. Thank you.
Thank you all
Have
for
a good
coming out.
evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Agent, I can get you to take a couple chairs out with
Thank God you stopped me. I must have pointed somebody else.
They gotta go back in the hearing room.
Oh.
Okay, fair enough, thank you. Good point.
They're going back in the hearing room. There's still a meeting going on.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick, I appreciate that. You can just put it over there.
Yeah, anywhere.
Oh, no, here we go. All right,
Use it now, and then we'll just walk around. Sit.
have a good evening.
Go behind now.
You're welcome. All right. So, next one, Jewelcraft, 585 Main Street, Unit C, Hyannis, map 308, parcel 115, business sign. Do you have anyone for that? Would you like to step up, please?
Good evening. My name is Joseph Scott.
Good evening.
Excuse me.
I won't
Oh,
forget my
tell us a
bottled
little bit
water
about your
again.
project.
It's the first historic meeting we've done with Hyannis, so bear with me, sorry. So the...
Very tolerant, and we're working with you.
Absolutely. The face of the building that Jewelcraft is in is getting redone. With that being done, their sign is coming down. So they're proposing putting up a new sign. It will be non-illuminated. Their original sign was illuminated. It conforms to all the Hyannis guidelines. It's 120 inches long by 24 inches tall. It's made out of 3/4 inch PVC. It'll be painted like a dark blue. The sketch that's provided, the diamond will be a silver, metallic silver vinyl, and it will also be on 3/4 inch PVC. Yeah. That's it.
Okay, commissioners. Commissioners, you forgot to remind me to close down public comment on that last one. It
No,
just
you
occurred
did.
to me.
I
Oh, did
thought
I?
you did.
Oh, did I? Oh, did I? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you did.
Just
You did.
occurred to me I didn't. Okay. Well, thank you. Okay.
Brownie points, he was listening.
He was, yes. Okay. So thank you. So any questions with regard to the presentation?
I have a question. This is a pretty small sign, really. Where does it sit?
So it's going to sit on the center of the building. So like I said, this is just a drawing. It's actually 10 feet long.
Oh, it's that one. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
looking at this freestanding. Oh, my God. All right, wrong thing.
No problem.
Solve that
There
problem.
it is.
There you go.
You lost me
Being
at the
very
bakery.
helpful tonight. Thank you.
120 inches long. All right, then.
I thought it was 120.
Any questions from the commissioners with regard to the presentation?
No.
None.
No. I'll say.
No.
So I'm going to open it up to public comment. Public comment? Nope. So leave public comment open until we go for a motion. And let me ask the staff, any information on this you would like to present?
No, nothing further. Thorough application. Thank you.
I have a question on the metallic silver with regard to the new guidelines. No problems?
The silver is part of it.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that for the record. All right, deliberation. Commissioners, what do you think of it?
Looks good.
All right.
All right, Kevin.
Now I do it? Okay, all right. Now-
Wait a minute, wait a minute.
Oh, see? Now you're getting me in trouble.
Are you planning to make a motion?
I was.
Okay, well, in that case, I'll close public comment.
Oh, okay.
And go for a motion.
Tom is just roll him down. I'll get him.
Procedure.
See what happens in church next week, Tom. All right, I do move that the commission find this application to be compatible with the preservation and protection of the district as to the sign that is going over Jewelcraft on 585 Main Street.
Second.
Seconded, okay. Commissioner Matthews?
Yes.
Commissioner Colley's not here. Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Cronin?
Aye.
Commissioner Gordy?
Aye.
Commissioner Kay?
Aye.
I also also say aye. Commissioner Powell. And so, Commissioner, motion on the certificate of appropriateness, please.
I move to issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 585 Main Street, Unit C.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Cronin?
Aye.
Commissioner Matthews?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Doherty? Aye. Commissioner Kay? Aye. I also say aye. Congratulations. Thank you. Nice.
Yeah, good looking sign.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for bearing with us through it was a long first.
140 inches wide, Jack.
Shouldn't have said that because
Yeah, 140
This is our first one.
Thank you.
How about
All right, bye-bye now.
How about 10 feet of plastic?
Thank you.
09 Main Street, Hyannis, map 327, parcel 151, with regard to a sign. Hi.
There it is.
Good evening, I'm fine. How about
Peer
yourself?
recovery right there.
Good evening. My name's Charlie Brennan, and I'm from Simple Signs. And Peer Support Center is looking to put up a sign. They started occupying a new space on Main Street, and it's a small sign. It's 30 inches wide, 24 inches tall. It's on a 4x4 post. Center of the sign's 5 feet. And that's it. That's what we're looking to do. And it is double-sided. Yes, it would be done on both sides.
Any questions from the commissioners on the presentation?
None for me.
None for me.
Well,
Oh, Commissioner Cronin, I'm sorry.
Just because it's a post, you don't usually see a lot of posts in this area. Is there a reason why you might want not put it on the building itself to keep it out of harm's way?
Spot on the building, that area that it's in is 7 feet wide. The sign is only 30 inches. It'll be within a foot of, it'll be further away than a foot from the edge of the cobblestone. And as you go up and down Main Street, there's quite a few businesses on the left-hand side when you're going down that do have posts. Right outside El Mariachi has posts, and there's a couple more, quite a few more, actually.
Yeah, from the picture here, there's not a whole lot of space to put that.
So a post is okay within the guidelines?
A freestanding sign is appropriate in the district if the commission agrees. You're right, though. I think in that general area, there are minimal freestanding signs, but.
Any other questions from the commission on the presentation? Opening up to public comment. Opening it up to staff.
One clarifier, I heard you mention 5 feet in height, so that's the post height is 5 feet?
No, the post height is roughly 6 feet. The center of the sign is 5 feet.
6 feet, center of sign is 5 feet, perfect. And the post material is just a 4x4 wood?
It's a 4x4 wooden pressure-treated post with a white sleeve we're going to put over it. So that'll be maintenance-free as far as anything. It'll look great for many years to come.
Thank you, that's all.
The only question I have is that if it's going to be 6 feet and it's 5 feet for the middle of the sign or the bottom of the
Yes,
sign?
the middle of the sign.
Okay. And I was just thinking if it's above people's heads, but it doesn't say that.
That's what I was concerned with, having
Yeah,
posts out there.
I'm 5'2", so I think about those things.
The bottom edge of the sign will be at 4 feet, and the top edge of it will be at 6 feet, because it's 24 inches tall.
And it's a lit area, right?
It is a lit area, and there's a light right
there,
out
yeah.
front there,
Okay.
too.
All right. All right. Commissioners, what do you think?
It's okay?
Yep.
No objection.
So, in that case, I'll close public comment. Would one of the commissioners like to make a motion on the findings, please?
Sure, I'll move that the commission find this application to be compatible with preservation and protection of the district.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Clark? Aye. Commissioner Doherty?
Aye.
Commissioner Kay?
Aye.
I also say aye. Would a commissioner like to make a motion and also closing public comment on the certificate of appropriateness?
I move to issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 209 Main Street, Hyannis.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Kay.
Aye.
Commissioner Doherty.
Aye.
Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Matthews.
Aye.
Commissioner Cronin.
Aye.
I also say aye. Congratulations. And again,
Great.
thank you for waiting through with us.
Yes, thank you so much, guys. You're doing great work.
Thank you.
We tried.
Well, Charlie, get him.
Take it easy, Matt.
All right. GCP Main Street LLC, 201 Main Street, Hyannis, map 327, parcel 150. It is the same address for two applications. One is for a demolition, the other is for a new building. Can I ask whoever's going to be presenting this, do you want to consider both of these together, or do you want to take them separate?
I'll jump in.
Okay, that's fine.
Absolutely.
Excuse me.
I got a bunch of these. You want one?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else want a small water? I got a bunch of them upstairs.
All set, thank you.
A little dry in here.
I brought my polar, whatever.
So, thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Eliza Cox. I'm an attorney at Nutter, McLennan and Fish in Hyannis. I'm here this evening on behalf of the applicant. I do think it makes sense to open up both matters. What we'd like to do is present the project for the redevelopment of the site, and then obviously there's two applications pending, so we can talk about them separately at that point.
And I'll ask again, after you've brought up both of them together, if you want a vote to be together or separate.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Great.
Gentleman to the scholar.
So thank you very much for your time this evening. We're really pleased to be here tonight. You'll hear in just a moment from Cindy Lee, who is the architect for this redevelopment from Embark Architects. The property that's the subject of the applications is about a little less than 2 acres on the east end of Main Street. I think probably everyone is very familiar with the site. It's their former Cascade Motel property. It hasn't been used in many, many years and is in a state of disrepair. My client purchased the property in February of 2022 and has been working very closely with planning and development staff prior to acquisition and then post-acquisition on the designs for the redevelopment of this project. We were also watching very carefully the form-based zoning as that proceeded through the planning board and town council to ensure that the redevelopment was consistent with the form-based code, and we're pleased to report that it is. Operationally, the site has been through site plan review informally several times. We've worked with the town on sort of the technical and operational aspects of the design. And we have our formal site plan review public meeting later this month. So I think what I'd like to do now is turn it over to Cindy. She's going to walk you through the plans and the site, and then our team is here should you have any questions of any of us.
Am I going to block you being able to see? Are you sure? Okay. Let me know if I get in the way.
Is this okay?
Sure.
Oh, wait. You want me here?
Yes, please. And if you could also sign in, please.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Cindy Lee. I'm with Embark Architects, and I am the architect of record for 201 Main Street. I'm not familiar with this.
I believe we have a knockout version of Adobe.
Is that better? Okay. So 201 Main Street is not too far from here, 10-minute walk, corner of Main Street and School Street. Currently, as Liza said, is a unused, unoccupied, vacant property except for the little corner parking lot. So we have some current existing condition photos along Main Street. Also, because of the form-based zoning guidelines, we also study similar buildings that are of appropriate size and configuration on Main Street, Center Street, and South Street. So the property currently has 5 existing buildings. The building at the front with the gable roof is the motel office, originally built in 1870, probably a single-family home that back then. In the 1950s, the motel room buildings were added behind the motel office. There are flat roof with motel rooms, and then there are 2 small cottages in the middle of the lot. The business have not been operating since before the COVID, and it's been sitting vacant. The rear of the lot is overgrown and dark, and it could it is begging for redevelopment. So our goal is to transform this underutilized lot that is part of the historic district and part of the vibrant Main Street into a multifamily development. We're also going to refurbish the existing pay lots at the corner of School and Main Street. And by doing so, we can combine the vehicular circulation coming into using a single driveway and accessing both views, the pay lot and the new residential building. The building is also situated, there's the part of the building that is fronting on Main Street, what we call the north wing, the north being to Page left, is situated so that we can block the view of the parking and the bulk of the building behind it. In addition, we try to push the building as far away to the west as possible to be away from the houses along School Street. Michael, who's here tonight, he's the landscape architect. He can walk you through our landscape site improvements. In terms of the building, the new proposed building, the north wing, which is fronting Main Street, we've devoted that first floor area to common use and share use for the residents. So residential lobby and other types of use. And then at the corner there, we're allocating 1,500 square feet for a future retail use. The apartments are then on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floor. With the south, very tip of the building at the south side and deep into the lot, allocated for a bit more of resident lounge and a terrace. The building form is capped with pitch roofs and cross gables, and we're carving out the roof so that we can hide all the mechanical equipment from view. So in working with form-based zoning design guideline, we recognize that the facade on Main Street really needs to be part of the public realm with large storefront windows and visibility and transparency, whereas the south wing, the part of the building that's deep in the lot, needs to be attuned to more residential in scale. And the question is how we would try to break that up with siding and color to bring it to a more smaller scale. I'm going to try to zoom in. So here we are, the facade on Main Street. It is divided into 5 bays with 2 of them projecting. The center of the building is the residential entry. To the right of it are resident amenities, lounges, could be fitness center, but it's a shared use. And then to the left of the building is the retail entry. And then further on to the left is that paid commercial lot. We are at the base of the building, we're using a light color brick. And I have the sample here. We have storefront windows above with transom lights.
I'm sorry, where is the brick being used?
It's at the bottom of the building,
Where the white is.
and it turns up. Well, didn't touch it. I see it's a lag.
I will give a break at some stage after the presentation.
There you go.
Just zoom in, maybe zoom in one time, and then just scroll down.
Okay, I think you have it.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank
Sorry
you,
about
Jen.
that. And then on the second and third floor, we have fiber cement clapboard siding on the recessed portion. And then on the forward bay section, there are fiber cement shingles. On the 4th floor, the dormers are set back per the design guideline. That way, we were able to create some balconies off of those units on the 4th floor.
Commissioner, can you see all right back there?
Oh, yeah, I'm good. I have it on my computer, too. I'm fine.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. So could you do me a favor? I'm sorry. I know you're telling us what you're using. Just on your board, can you just point? We got the brick on the bottom.
So we got the brick at the bottom.
Yep.
And we have a bronze anodized finish for the storefronts. Here is the siding number 1, which is the shingle. They're in the recessed body.
Yep.
And then the projecting bay, we have lap siding.
Okay.
And then the windows are here.
Gotcha. Okay.
A bronze
The
color.
black?
The black, yes.
Bronze, yes.
Gotcha.
Dark,
Would
yes.
it be helpful to move this other stand here so you can see that better? Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so on the long facade, this is the east elevation. The part of the building that's fronting Main Street is over here. It's quite long, and we recognize that, but we are utilizing the roof form, these cross gables, to break it up, and introducing 2 other siding material. On these gable bays, we're using a fiber cement deep ocean, which is this color, vertical board and batten. And then where we have congregated and stacked up these Juliet balconies, we're introducing a sustainable shiplap siding that we can stain and bring some warmth to the facade. So this is that material is made out of rice hull, and you can work it like wood.
And again, that's the elevation that's facing the parking lot.
Yes, that's facing the parking lot.
Gotcha.
Correct. And then at the very end of the south side, and I will, sorry.
No rush.
On the south side, where we have a bit of residence amenity and a terrace, we're using this deep ocean siding that's vertical, and then also the wood tone wrapping around it should terminate the building at the end. And repeating some of the other colors there in the front part in the Main Street facade. So here's a view of it, of the building from Yarmouth Road with 209 Main Street right here. And I think the sign application was for a sign over here. And a new repaved corner pay lot with full landscaping. The retail space would be on this corner. And we've carved out a bit of outdoor space to go with that retail space, whatever it would be in the future. A view of the building looking down Main Street toward the east. This is the 209 Main Street. Really, I think we are able to hide the parking and the building behind it with the north wing, right on Main Street. A view of the building from across the street. This is currently a parking lot, but maybe you can get some grass there in the future.
That's us.
Yeah, that's two of Main Street.
Yeah.
Conflict of interest?
Just a suggestion. So just quick sections through the building. The north wing, we have gable roofs, we have cross gable dormers. They're set back appropriately on the fourth floor. And then on the south side, we have these false cross gable dormers, and then the hidden well where we're hiding all the mechanical equipment. And then finally, we'd like to say that of the 95 units, 10 of them will be affordable, and that they will be designed to accommodate a variety of layouts. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Michael.
Can I ask for a couple clarifications?
Of course.
What, 95 units are affordable, right?
10 are affordable.
10.
10, right, okay. Of the 95, 10 aren't, okay, sorry, wasn't writing fast enough. And you said something about where the sign would go. I didn't see a sign on this. Is there, is that a separate application?
That was the people before us. They're right here. This 209 Main Street.
Oh, that is, right, gotcha.
Although there is an existing historic Main Street sign here on the property, which we are putting back where it would be. I can find
I
out.
thought you were making an application for a sign for this. That
Oh, no,
I
no.
couldn't find it.
Just one question, I know you referenced, some of the, I love that strip of Main Street. You referenced 255, but you put, I see all the siding. What about moldings on the side and the moldings for the trim?
We do have trim, but we haven't really developed the details to look at molding. And let me just. So we envision, between the storefronts on the ground floor, there would be pilasters with base and simplified like top trim and like a cornice trim that aligns with these roofs that are over the entry. They're set on the setback bay. We have deep overhangs on where the gable roof come down. So in terms of very fine details, we're really not at that stage. This is more like schematic design. We'd be happy to bring you details later on as we develop them.
I personally think details are important, especially some
So do I.
of the buildings
Of
that
course.
you referenced here.
Right.
I like the front of the building. I like what you're doing. I like the balconies on the top. But I think it needs more detail to fit in to that part of Main Street. And you said there's 95 units?
95, yeah.
How many are one bedroom, how many are two bedroom?
Good question.
I think it's on the front. We have a breakdown right here.
second floor?
We have 66 one-bedrooms, 10 one-bedroom plus, meaning there's a little sleeping nook or office, 2 bedrooms, 17 2 bedrooms, and 2 3 bedrooms.
How many parking spots for the 95?
There are 98 parking spots, and then in addition, there's 34 that are on the corner lot.
34.
They're existing. There are existing 34 in the corner lot that, let me just give you.
Will those parking spots on the corner lot, will they be able to be used by the residents, or is that just paid parking for the ferries and stuff like that?
I think it could be used for the residents.
It can? Okay.
Depending on how they signage it, and, you know, there are different uses in the year, right? There's peak season, there's
Yeah.
off-season, right?
Okay.
It shouldn't be just fully devoted to one use. Because it's the same owner, same property.
The parking is
34
right on
over
School
here,
Street there?
and then
Yes, it's one
98.
property.
That's
That's what I didn't.
fully devoted to
No,
the
my question is,
residential.
it's a paid, it's a,
Correct.
they use it for island parking.
Yes, it's right here.
But
Just wanted to make sure it's part
I
of
didn't
that
believe
property.
that those were transferable.
So the applicant is meeting zoning for parking. It's, I believe you have the appropriate amount on the site itself.
That's right.
But there's also additional at the paid parking, they're saying, for spillover. And very likely that would probably be limited off-season, I would imagine. But they meet the zoning on the rectangular site in and of itself.
The 95
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
98.
Has anybody done, like, that corner?
I don't know.
And going into Main Street, it's bumper-to-bumper traffic year-round, okay?
This way here.
All of it, coming down to Willow.
Right.
This, have you done a traffic study? Another question for staff is, you know, last week we were looking at a unit for 120 units,
Yep.
and this is for 95. Is there anything else in this area in the near future?
So much coming to Hyannis. There's a lot of investment coming to Hyannis, and I myself am thoroughly excited to see it. This site itself is an eyesore. It's welcome to Hyannis. Here's the dilapidated motel. The investment, the multi-million-dollar investments that are coming to Hyannis are just mind-blowing and so exciting to see. That I'm very frustrated with the lack of enthusiasm that I'm seeing from certain boards. This, in and of itself, I think you guys are spot on in terms of moldings and fine details, but the concerns of investment coming to Hyannis is shocking, because this is phenomenal. We should be saying thank you for coming to Hyannis. And yes, there are multiple others coming. And I think it's going to be of the same quality magnitude, maybe not the same development or the same numbers of units, but as I mentioned, we have shuttered 7-Elevens that are may convert into small scale 3-unit, 4-unit sites. Single story commercials that now can see investment on the second and third stories that are just shuttered offices that no one's coming back from COVID. This is just monumental time for Hyannis, and I'm excited to see it. And yes, we all just got out of the horror of traffic during tourism, and that's never going to go away. And that's because we're a destination, and that's all of us who live here. We know that that's the case, and I breezed through Hyannis for the first time in a while today, and that was a nice nice lift. But there will be certainly some traffic that comes with this. But the great thing about it is we're identifying housing in underutilized spaces on Main Street, Hyannis. And a lot of these folks will get to not have to get in a vehicle. I don't have to get in a vehicle. I walk to work. I'm excited to walk to work. I walk my kids to school, and I live in downtown Hyannis. And I'm betting a lot of other people now are going to get that same opportunity, and that's exciting. Sorry, I was a little...
No, I agree with you.
Your input is always valuable. Thank you.
It is
Thank you.
exciting about, I think this is a beautiful plan, don't get me wrong. But again, what can it take? You say all this is coming to Hyannis. Do we have the water? Do we have the sewer?
We have the water, we have the sewer.
Sewage. Do we
So,
have-
oh, sorry, Eliza can.
Yeah, I would just add that all of these comments come up during the site plan review process, which is the technical process where all of the building department chairs sit around a table and they talk about fire access, water, sewer, traffic, curb cuts, which, you know, we're reducing curb cuts and getting them off Main Street with this project. So all of those questions are absolutely within the purview of the town, and they're reviewed during the site plan review process.
And I will note, you know, so during that site plan review, Hans Kaiser, Hyannis Water Department, has reviewed and found it acceptable. DPW sewer inspector also found it acceptable. Yeah, we absolutely in Hyannis, you know, there we have the appropriate amount of water and we have the appropriate amount of sewer.
So we're seeing a lot of these now, 2 in a row, 2 weeks in a row, 2 meetings in a row, this coming up. We can assume that when it comes to this point, all of those boards have gone with sewer, water, whatever the case is. You've gone through all of that, and it's all acceptable on that level, and now we're just talking about the building itself.
Exactly right. Once it gets to this point, we're talking about exterior improvements
Gotcha.
to the site, the architectural improvements to the site. And I will say, you know, it might feel a little startling that we have two, you know, back to back. But I will say, and you heard it from this applicant, you heard it from the last applicant, that they've been talking with planning and development, and that's because there's been so much pent-up desire to redevelop these motels. And we said, what is it going to take to redevelop these motels? And that's where the form-based zoning came from, and that's where the design guidelines hopefully will take us to that next level. So that's why you're seeing it now. And that's not to say that, you know, it's going to keep the momentum going, but, you know, it's an exciting time for Hyannis, and we are getting at least some quality investment at this time.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mr. Doherty, if I may add that there is 2 existing curb cuts on Main Street that we'll be closing, and we're consolidating it into this one rebuilt curb cut that is existing to minimize the ins and out of the property.
From the road, and how far back from the road?
So we are allowed 0 setback on the front, but we chose to step the building back 2 feet so that the result is an 8-foot wide setback because this is a pretty tall building. In the recess where we have the entrances, there are additional 3 feet step back to signify the entrance.
I will say that kind of meets the character of the neighboring lot that also has a minimal to no setback as well. And in this area, this is part of the DMS, of the downtown Main Street zoning. So we're actually we're hoping for either 0 as the, you know, right up to the lot line, or a maximum. So we've now capped it as you can't retreat from the sidewalk. You have a maximum of 15 feet that you could go back if you absolutely needed to, based on, you know, the slope and topography of the parcel perhaps. But we're encouraging folks to come and meet that lot line, because that's the history of downtown Main Street, Hyannis, is right along that sidewalk there.
I just wanted to make sure it was safe for walking along the sidewalk and that sort of thing.
On our design-based guidelines that we spent all summer on, do we have the 7-foot setback for the length of this building? It almost looks like it isn't there.
Yeah, it does look like that. Could you clarify?
We have on the 4th floor, we are required to step back 8 feet.
No. In our guidelines, we don't have a linear length on the building that doesn't have a 7-foot setback to break it up as an architectural feature.
So the bays themselves, so in the design guidelines that are currently proposed guidelines, but we did share with this applicant, and one of the features is at those 2 bays that Jack's referring to is the depth of 7 feet.
We can make that adjustment.
But it's only in those bays that there's the depth of 7 feet, not on the other part. So it's not meeting the 7 feet?
Right, so it's the interaction that creates some depth over the course of a length of a building. And so, I don't know if you want to walk.
Like between the bays, go back even farther than 7 feet.
You go back 7 feet to create that depth that Jack has mentioned.
I just didn't see that on the floor plan.
We have 5 feet, but to make it 7 feet is not a problem to meet the guideline where the entrances are.
You can meet the 7 feet?
Yes.
And you mentioned numerous times that the first floor is occupied by storefront.
I meant storefront as in a lot of glass. In the form-based guideline, we're required to have 60% glass on the first floor.
But is that storefront the aluminum frame storefront?
It's aluminum, but it's not aluminum color. So it would be this anodized bronze color to match the windows that are above.
Again, in our new guidelines, where we were hoping for more trim and more decorative storefronts to look more historic.
We can add moldings around it, especially since we have breakdown on the first floor. We can add brick molding around it.
So you're going to use an anodized aluminum storefront, but it's still going to be a storefront.
Yes. It's the most durable and able to hold large pieces of glass.
Jack, I think that's that one's similar to what we saw at Alberto's, very likely with the the dark trim there.
Yeah. I like the black, actually. But I think aluminum, isn't that...
So again, it's proposed, but this commission actually had a really good discussion about that specifically. And originally we were saying, let's prohibit it altogether. But I think we fell back towards considering it because of the ones like Alberto's and some others where they have that glass that at least is translucent. You can see through it really well. And the aluminum doesn't look like the chrome,
Well, that's why I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But I think the word that was used, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the new guidelines is aluminum is discouraged.
Yeah.
Isn't that the word? Yeah. But I must admit that doesn't look like the aluminum.
I think part of it is how we look at the division of the glass and making it more pedestrian scale. We try to, it's not just one giant plate of glass. We're trying to break it down into bays and then subdivide it with transoms so that there's character to it and there's just not, like a glass building.
Yeah.
That's not, that's not the intention, right? We wanted to have scale and be able to allow visibility.
Did you have anything more to present or Commissioner questions on the presentation?
You want to look at the landscape quickly?
Oh,
Yes.
we can do the landscape as well, yes. Sorry, you've been waiting so patiently over there.
Mike D'Angelo, landscape architect. Can I stand up and talk?
Would you mind signing in?
I did already.
Oh, okay.
Actually, if you don't mind, to the mic, you're on TV.
No problem.
You can bring them up. Oh, you've
That's
got
okay.
it here,
That's
right?
all
Okay.
Hello again, Mike D'Angelo, landscape architect. So I'll start with the hardscape. I'll talk a little about the planting and then the lighting. So starting with the hardscape, at the face of the building, where Cindy mentioned stepping back the building, in that zone you can see we're adding a red permeable paver. So a red brick permeable paver. So in that zone where it steps in 5 or 7 feet at the entry, and then at the band at the face of the building, that will be paver. So that could be a nice element. And then that wraps around the corner into the cafe space that is both open to the public and to the cafe space or the retail space that will be there in the building. Along the asphalt sidewalk, we have a new bench that we're placing, which is encouraged as part of the guidelines to have some public benefits facing the street. As we work our way around, all the sidewalk is being replaced with new asphalt to match the existing condition. And I believe the granite curb is all going to be reset as well. Right now, it's in pretty bad shape. As Cindy mentioned, we're removing the 2 curb cuts along Main Street. There'll be 1 curb cut on School Street. As you enter into the site, and I'll just focus on the hardscape again for now. So at the back side of the building, as people leave the amenity space inside the building, and they'll follow that concrete path to the central part of the site, we have a amenity space for the tenants. So we have an area with grills and lounge seating, some tables, and then the next zone next to that is synthetic turf with some areas for games like cornhole and bocce. And then that third zone next to that is synthetic turf, and that's dedicated to dogs, for homeowners that have dogs.
Excellent.
Yeah. I have a dog.
Exactly.
And then moving on to the planting. So we meet all of the zoning bylaw guidelines for planting. There's 45 new shade trees being proposed, 117 shrubs, and almost 900 perennials and grasses. Looking at the guidelines, it talks about making sure headlights don't shine into the road from the parking lot. So we've around the edge of Main Street, the parking lot, we made sure we have really drought tolerant and tough plants like panicum and bayberry that do well in this type of environment and that are native to Cape Cod. As far as the trees, like I said, there's 45 new trees, and those are all, there's 7 different varieties. They're all native to Cape Cod, varieties of oaks and maples, dogwoods. And then lighting, the last piece is lighting. So the parking lot itself on the top, on the top of the plan there, that's the east, that will be lit by a really simple LED parking lot light, 15 feet tall per the guidelines. No light spill over the property line anywhere. As you work your way down onto this longer piece of the building, the parking lot is lit from the building, and that is also dark sky compliant and no light spill over the property line. We do have one acorn light that we're proposing for the little plaza brick area right near the cafe. We thought that'd be a nice feature to include by Main Street. Otherwise, there's a few bollard lights, low-level lights by the amenity space, and that's really it for the lighting. Any questions on the landscape?
You had pictures of those lights too, and I can't find them on your presentation.
Yeah, the last page has the cut sheets for all the lights. I could scroll to it.
Was it grill around the grills and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so here's the photometric plan. Let's see. Here you go. So the Acorn Light, which is up by the Main Street Plaza near the retail space.
I see it, sir.
Yeah, and then the really simple LED parking lot light, full cutoff, and then the full cutoff lights for the building.
Are we required to have a stormwater retention plan?
Yeah, not for this commission, but the stormwater has been reviewed by DPW. There's actually some outstanding items that may have been resolved already, but was brought up in informal site plan and is to be resolved prior to getting the formal site plan. So all water is going to be retained on site, essentially.
So there are no detention basins required?
So
Underground storage.
Thank you for that presentation, by the way.
Thank
A lot
you.
of hard work went into that.
They're right here in the center of the lot, so they're all pitched toward the, and then there's 2 sections of it in the back of the lot. The lot is fairly flat, and it goes down a little bit toward the back here. So they're all store on site.
So it's perk? It's just a perk site, or it's literally a retention basin?
They're concrete chambers that holds the water, and it perks naturally.
Okay, so it's okay.
Yes.
Got it. And there's only one exit from the driveways through
Yes.
that paved parking lot.
We have reviewed the circulation with the fire department and provided, and adjusted some of the curb radiuses for their apparatus.
Do you have to do the fire lane, the paving section for the fire lane to carry the
They
weight of
didn't
the
ask
trucks?
for it.
They didn't, really?
We, the way that the circulation work allows them to maneuver their equipment. We did adjust a couple of radiuses, like I said.
Oh, well, I'm used to seeing a different paving section, a depth of paving to carry the weight of the fire
For
truck.
it to turn around.
Not to turn around, to carry the weight.
Oh, but we have asphalt to allow them to get around the interior of the site and around.
No, you don't understand. I'm from a different world. We have a 9-inch paving section if it's a fire lane, and a 4-inch section if it's paving for cars. Very different because fire trucks weigh 90,000 pounds, and you'll break up a parking lot. So I'm not used to that.
Right, I'm sure. the
Not
civil
having a
engineer-
fire lane.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, oh, boy.
Not a, designated fire lane. I mean, but, the travel lane is, being used by the fire department, will be used by the fire department.
I'm a California architectural firm, and we have huge regulations for fire trucks. And it's amazing paving sections to carry the weight of fire trucks. So it's just not gotten here yet.
I guess it depends on the apparatus that's owned by the local fire department.
And I'm imagining the surface drainage is H20 loading for emergency vehicles. So that's our typical standard, is that if anything drainage below or any septic system or anything like that is just to handle emergency vehicles.
Kind of shocking.
Jack, I'm going to ask you a question, if I may.
Yeah.
The only thing, it's not our purview, it's already been okayed. I'm just curious, if there's only one entrance and exit, then if you have an accident or something at that entrance or exit and you have to get a fire truck in, how do you do it?
So the chief's response is they have Main Street. It's Main Street. They have access.
okay, fair enough.
There's a public way 10 feet off the.
So that question was asked?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, in fact, the civil engineer had proposed the mountable curb right here for them as a backup, and they said they don't need it. I'm gonna put here.
They asked the question there. So I was just curious. Okay. Any other questions on the presentation?
I think it's beautifully done.
Yeah,
very nice.
I do want to see the moldings and the
Yeah,
detail.
same here.
Because that whole street is full of it, if you do it, and especially, you have it pictured here, 255 Main Street.
Yes.
And if you look at that ground floor, and I really want to see the doors, because right now I'm just looking at black aluminum,
Yeah.
And that first floor, it should be very, attractive,
Right.
like this. So I love the balconies on the top. I don't like that long building in the back.
But you can't see it.
You can't see it. But you did do some architectural work, so it's not just, flat with, you put some balconies in there. No, I think it's a nice job.
Very good.
And you definitely can't see the long building in the back. So the Commissioner Matthews here.
I just wanted a few things from my side. Just a question. Any idea what that space is going to be in the corner? Will it be retail? Will it be restaurant? Do you know what that's going to be yet, or is that up in the air?
It's still up in the air. Our goal is to get a cafe or
okay,
a store in there.
Cool. All right. That's great. You also at one point said the word vertical, and correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. Do we prefer horizontal as opposed to vertical? From the guidelines?
Yeah, it's up to this commission. I mean, historically, yes, we've done the horizontal clapboard, but this commission, we are seeing a trend of that being submitted. Right. Certainly up to this commission.
I just wanted to throw it out there because I thought in the past we talked about making it more horizontal as opposed to vertical. But other than that, I agree with Tom. I love the design. I love the balconies. I like the little clubhouse in the back, which is a nice outdoor area for people to hang out. I love the pavers look great. I love that you thought of the dogs. That's very important to me. So it looks. But again, I agree with Tom. The devil's in those small little details. Yeah. But once we see those small little details, I think that it looks great. You've done a great job.
Thank you. I'd be happy to send you more developed details as we proceed with the project.
Awesome.
So, any other commissioners? Yes, I think my feeling on it, I like what you've done. I think it looks beautiful. Confirming with staff, height is acceptable according to the guidelines.
Yes.
I also would like to see moldings and trim, just to kind of
course,
give it more character, historic character. I like the balconies. Very good. my feeling would be,
Quick thing, there's a letter that was submitted. I don't know if you want to read that in from Cape Cod Healthcare.
do you have it?
In the 7-foot setback, that was one of the open items.
Do you have it?
Yeah, sure.
Do you have it?
I can read it if you'd like.
Got it. I don't think I have it. Yeah, and I had the 3, but I didn't get the.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah, if you could, and I'd rather you read it because I work for Cape Cod Healthcare.
Sure. It's Hyannis Main Street Waterfront District Commission, Planning Development, 3rd floor, 367 Main Street, Hyannis, Mass. 02601, regarding the support for the redevelopment of 201 Main Street, addressing housing needs and community revitalization in Hyannis. To whom it may concern, I'm writing in support of the redevelopment of 201 Main Street. This project presents a unique opportunity to address critical needs within the community while simultaneously fostering revitalization in a strategic area of the town. The east end of Hyannis has been neglected for several years. This project aims to breathe new life into an area in dire need of redevelopment. The issue of housing has become increasingly challenging across Cape Cod, particularly in Hyannis. The shortage of housing options places a strain on local families, workers, and young professionals seeking to establish roots in the community. The proposed redevelopment offers a solution by introducing new housing units that cater to a range of individuals and families. By creating this housing opportunity, we can help retain local talent, contribute to the vitality of the area, and ensure the community remains accessible to all. Cape Cod Hospital's ongoing expansion is essential to meet the evolving healthcare needs of the region, recognizing the importance of providing appropriate housing options for healthcare staff, enabling them to live in close proximity to their workplace. This is not only ensures that their well-being, but also contributes to the seamless functioning of essential healthcare services. Revitalization of the east end of Hyannis holds great potential to transform the area into a thriving hub of activity, attracting both residents and visitors alike. The proposed project has the power to enhance the neighborhood's aesthetics, infrastructure, and overall quality of life while contributing to economic development in the area. The project aligns with the town's vision for a vibrant and inclusive community that celebrates its unique character. Overall, the proposed redevelopment project is a pivotal step toward addressing the pressing housing needs of the community while helping support economic growth. Please do not hesitate to contact me should you have any questions. Sincerely, Michael K. Loaf, President and CEO.
Okay. Can you send, you need that one, right? Can you send me a copy of that? Thanks. And everyone else.
Even absorbed that, it came so fast.
Yeah, I'll do it.
It was so long, I was trying to get it all quick.
Good job.
Thank you. That's what I do for a living.
You lost me at the bakery.
So what my suggestion would be is to, if you wouldn't, addressing the setbacks, the molding, I think it's all pretty simple. You look at, I can always tell when people with their pens, it's as good as raising hands.
So just an offer, feel free to disregard, but I think, a lot of good here and a lot of great suggestions. I've noted, further refining the details of doors, windows, molding, specifically on the first floor to really enhance this design and how it relates to Main Street, as well as the 7-foot depth of those bays to meet those proposed design guidelines. If we wanted to wrap that into a condition that must come back to this commission prior to a building permit for you guys to give final approval, that's certainly something you could consider.
And you had mentioned something about brick on the ground floor as well, something. Commissioner Clark. No, okay. We can, or we can ask to come back, and represent that to us, just the changes, so that we can, do it nice and cleanly rather than back and forth and back and forth. I personally think it's a great presentation and exciting. I would like to see it more, with the moldings and that, but I think that's probably a fairly easy fix. But we'd probably want to see it.
Yeah. I think so.
We certainly wouldn't need a whole presentation.
No, just the additional, this is what we
Yeah,
added.
just the refinements would
Yeah.
be fine.
Does that sound good?
Don't need all the easels and boards.
Any other changes that might come up during the final?
Did you want to, I've got your name on the notes. You were representing, is there anything further you had to say?
No, I mean, we appreciate the feedback. So just, so I'm understanding, Jim mentioned the possibility of a condition, but it sounds like, are you suggesting you want us to come back while this hearing is still open? I'm just procedurally trying to understand where the.
We usually want to see it, 'cause sometimes we've had experience where it doesn't happen, so to speak. And I don't think that's anything here. It's, I think you've done a
Can we agree to do the demolition?
Yes. I think that's what my suggestion would
We
be.
get that off the plate?
Yeah.
The demolition of the existing buildings?
We're so far along in this process, I feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just looking at details now, but the rest of the
Well,
structure.
we have two separate applications
Right.
for
I
that.
would suggest that we do the demolition separate, that way they can get that done.
When would you be able to come back to us?
So just for your guys' schedule, the next available, and Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know the 20th is filled to capacity, so it would be October 4th would be the soonest the applicant could come back.
It's just, I know I've said it before, having something that doesn't look good is better than having a pile of rubble, so you take care of this site, it wouldn't be, yeah? How do you feel about that?
I felt that way last week because I thought we were farther away from where we are with this project.
Okay.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, in my opinion, and just listening, it feels like this project feels like we're on the way. It's just those small little things that aren't going to happen when there's first taking down and building up. It's those little details. So that's why I agree, Jack. I'm fine with that if we want to go that way.
So, as I said, I'm one voice, one vote. So am I reading the commissioners correctly that you'd prefer to go ahead and go with the demolition and then continue to sue for the additional things before we do the certificate of appropriateness? Is that generally what you want before we go for a motion?
I'd be comfortable with giving them both, frankly. After the beating we just took from the library, and now we're going to give them a hard time over this wonderfully put together presentation.
I think I'd rather see it, and I think the other commissioners have expressed that. So I'm going to say, would one of the commissioners like to make a motion on the demolition?
I move the commission find this application for the demolition and removal at 201 Main Street, Hyannis, to be compatible with preservation and protection of the district.
I'll second that.
So Commissioner Kay? Aye. Commissioner Doherty?
Aye.
Commissioner Matthews?
Aye.
Commissioner Cronin? I also say aye for that. And then we're doing just a continuation till October 4th, where you can present the rest to us, and we can get that certificate of appropriateness. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but we have to see it. Would the Commissioner like to make a motion for the continuation to the October 4th?
Also move that.
For 201 Main Street, Hyannis, map 327, parcel 150, for a new building to be continued. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Matthews.
Aye.
Commissioner Clark.
Aye.
Commissioner Doherty.
Aye.
Commissioner Kay.
Aye.
I also say aye. So we'll look forward to seeing you on the 4th, and hopefully we can get that all wrapped up. Thank you for bearing with us.
Thank you. Thank
I think it's a great project.
Great
We just wanted
project.
to.
Yeah, it'll be
Very
fun.
exciting.
We wanted to historically characterize it.
Yeah.
Beautiful job.
Great job.
Very nice.
Thank you so much. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
So no other business. Thank you very much. Thank you. There's no matters not reasonably anticipated by the chair. Next meeting is September 20th and October 4th. Can I have a motion for adjournment? We don't have any. So, is that Commissioner Kay? Commissioner for adjournment. Is that a motion for adjournment?
Yes, aye.
Second motion.
Yes.
I move that we adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Kay.
Aye.
Commissioner Doherty. Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Matthews.
Aye.
Commissioner Cronin.
Aye.
I also say aye.